Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Lieutenant Colonel Meng Wang. We warmly welcome the family of Private William Nalder, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is God by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Please be seated if able. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, flowers of the forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private William Nalder. Known as Bill, William Nalder was born in Sydney on the 26th of April 1946. The first of 9 children born to Wilfred Lindsay and Iris Mary Nalder. Bill's parents, both veterans of the Second World War, instilled a sense of national pride and service in their children. All but one of their children would serve in an Australian uniform, marry someone who did, or both. Bill Nalder grew up in Blacktown and attended Fort Street's Boys High School. After gaining his pre-intermediate level, he went to work as a shop assistant in his family retail business. Bill enjoyed swimming, playing hockey and rugby league. By the time he turned 17, he already stood 6 foot tall and possessed great strength. Following in his parents' footsteps, Bill enlisted in the Australian Army on the 27th of June 1963 for a 3-year term. Over the next 6 months, he completed basic training, infantry training and qualified for his New South Wales Certificate of Entrance, passing subjects in English, Maths and Australian Development. On the 12th of February 1964, Nalder was posted to the 1st Battalion, the Royal Australian Regiment. Upon arrival, he joined 2nd Lieutenant James Burke 12th Platoon in Delta Company. He soon became a popular figure amongst his platoon mates. In July 1964, 1 RAR deployed to New Guinea to take part in a 2-week exercise. The war in Vietnam was escalating and the Australian Army was about to expand from 4 infantry battalions to 9. In March 1965, Nalder was posted to the newly raised 5 RAR. He pushed for a return to 1 RAR. However, as his old battalion was making ready to deploy to South Vietnam, he wanted to deploy with his friends. He soon got his wish. Returning to 1 RAR in early May, he signed a 3-year extension to his service. 1 RAR began to move to Vietnam in March, the forward elements being sent to Bien Hoa Air Base, 20 kilometres northeast of Saigon, where the battalion would be attached to the US 173rd Airborne Brigade. On the 7th of June, Nalder and his company flew out from Richmond Air Base. Arriving in Saigon the following day, the men were airlifted to Bien Hoa Air Base. The battalion completed its move 3 days later and began its patrolling, digging defensive positions and undertaking administrative and picket duties. In what would be his last letter to his family, Nalder wrote, "We have been on many ambush patrols, but so far we have not shot anyone yet. The ambush go out in the afternoon and stay out all night. We only wear shirts and trousers and carry ammo and grenades, and it rains heavy at night. We end up coming back the next morning wet as hell." His letter will not reach home until after his death. On the 6th of July, 1 RAR deployed to its first major operation to War Zone Delta, north of Bien Hoa Air Base. Several minor contacts took place that afternoon. The next day, 12 Platoon located an enemy camp. The Australians spent time clearing the camp in silence, but there was no sign of the enemy. Around 2 p.m, 5 Viet Cong were observed returning to the camp. Lieutenant Burke had his men in position and initiated an ambush. In the ensuing firefight, an enemy soldier was killed and 2 were wounded. Lieutenant Burke credited Nalder with the battalion's first kill. The following afternoon, Delta Company was providing security for battalion headquarters. At 4 p.m, 2 enemy soldiers fired several shots into the Australian perimeter. Private Nalder was the only casualty, receiving a gunshot wound to the chest. Bill was evacuated to the 173rd Airborne Brigade aid station, where he died from his wounds around 5 p.m. that afternoon. He was the first 1 RAR soldier to die in South Vietnam as a result of enemy action. His remains were returned to Australia, where he was given a funeral with full military honours. Following a service at St Andrew's Cathedral, he was laid to rest in Rookwood General Cemetery. He was 19 years old. Nalder's name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my left, along with more than 500 others from the Vietnam War. His photograph is displayed by the full pool of reflection in front of you. This is but one of many stories of courage and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private William Nalder, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.